Hey guys, Bix Weir from Road to Ruta on the line. Couldn't be happier to have you back, Bix. Welcome back.
Thanks, Sean. It's good to be back. How are you?
I'm
Sounds
hanging.
like you're getting attacked left and right.
Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of months, and what are you going to do? Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, as they say, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I remember the early days of doing this back 10 years ago when I was jumping up and down about gold and silver manipulation, and I was getting attacked left and right from all angles. So I know where you're coming from.
Well, I appreciate that, and I want to thank everybody who's taken the time to leave me a kind comment of support and, give me a thumbs up because, it's just real clear. I mean, you and I are talking about the bad guys. That's what we like to do. That's what you should do if you embrace liberty. And I'm just really happy to see hundreds and hundreds and, essentially thousands of people standing, shoulder to shoulder with guys like you and me, Bix, guys like James Turk, guys like Jim Sinclair. I mean, all of us are in the weeds here together. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time because, we all need to stand together and stand up for each other, don't we, Bix?
We do, and you're doing something right if they started coming after you. So congratulations. I remember Bill Murphy in the early days. In 1 month, he got knocked out with some brass knuckles. He got his website hacked, and he got his car stolen. So, from your side, you're doing okay.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the world, Bix. The quickening is at hand. I just can't believe how rapidly things are changing. We have the Swiss devaluing the franc, which was an absolutely epic event happening back there in early September when they pegged the franc to the euro at 120. The Swiss are reacting to that news. The Swiss People's Party has launched a referendum to protect the 1,000 tons of gold owned by the Swiss National Bank, and their aim is to make it unconstitutional to sell gold and force the SNB to hold 20% of its assets in gold. Currently, only 16% of their assets are in gold. This is an epic event that's really starting to affect the whole world, isn't it, Bix? As people are awakening to the fact that these central banks will stop at nothing to devalue fiat currencies.
We are at the end game when it comes to this the whole plan of fiat money, and this was in the United States. If you read the Gold Commission, the big report that was done in 1981 and released in 1982, the conclusion, they got all the smartest people in the United States and around the world together to analyze whether or not we should go back onto a gold standard. And Reagan was pushing for this. And the conclusion of that report, they said, well, we're not going to do anything right now. But in the future, if we don't get the budgets under control, we figure that the people in the gold community will be getting larger and louder enough and loud enough to kind of force a return to a gold standard. And if you look at what's happened since 1981, all we do is print money. That is exactly what the United States wants to do, print as much money as possible to implode the dollar and return to a gold standard. And the really interesting thing these days, 1 month ago, in early August, there was fright in the market about the debt ceiling. We were up in arms about, oh my God, what if the U.S. defaults? And what happens a month and a half later? Obama comes out and says, we need another $500 billion to get jobs started. What happened to that big argument about the debt ceiling that was only 6 weeks ago?
It's a great point, Bix. One of the things I want to talk about with you, Bix, is that you point out that the price of both gold and silver is 100% rigged every day, and you write that the powers that be can place the price of these metals at $1 million an ounce or $0 an ounce with the stroke of a computer key. And if you want to survive the coming chaos, you must put yourself in a position where price does not matter. Explain that for folks, will you?
Well, the only way to run an unbacked fiat currency is to control the price of gold and silver. And that has been the motto of the United States and those controlling gold and silver since the early 70s when we went off the gold standard. And it makes sense because no unbacked currency has ever lasted this long. This is the longest it's been, about 40 years since we've been on a truly unbacked fiat monetary system. This is the first time in history it's lasted so long. There's been 3,000 other unbacked currencies that have tried and failed, and over again, the ultimate cause of the failure is printing too much of that money. When you can't control the amount of money that's printed, if it's not under control, you're going to print as much as you can until you destroy the currency. It's human nature. So to control the price of gold and silver is a must. And it was Alan Greenspan who invented the computer programs back in the 60s, and 70s that rigged the market. And today it's done through the large banks, and obviously they've taken over kind of that role and have used it for their own benefit. But that is, one day they're going to turn off that computer program. One day, very soon, they're going to turn off that computer program. Gold and silver are going to go wild. But until that day happens, you have to protect yourself. You can't have money in an ETF or in some kind of paper form of gold and silver. You have to have physical, and it's got to be on your own possession.
Okay, and let's talk about that, because you also make the note that the gold and silver ETFs were a con job from day one, and maybe the bad guy's last card in the destruction of the price of the precious metals. You write that at any moment both of these ETFs can be dissolved for a myriad of reasons, giving the bad guys the perfect cover to go for one final all-out computer-rigged metal slam. So your point is that folks would be emotionally devastated with a crash of silver down to $5. Now we're talking about paper silver and paper gold down to $300. Then people aren't thinking about their investments properly, because if you have your metal in physical outside of this system, that's a whole different mindset, isn't it?
That's really the only way to survive what's coming. Now, what's coming is the release of gold and silver from the manipulation. Gold and silver will go skyward, the value of them, the purchasing power. But to get there, this is a gigantic deal, because the release of gold and silver from manipulation will destroy all unbacked fiat currencies. So the people who are vested in the unbacked fiat currency is almost every single person in the world, because they have checking accounts, they have savings accounts, the banks and the governments who get to print all the money. It is a very big deal, and it's kind of why the CFTC is not clamping down on these guys yet, is because they know the consequences of a world without gold and silver manipulation. It means unbacked currency will fail almost immediately.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Webster Tarpley has even made the point that if this system collapses, then we better have a backup system in place, because it's going to get dicey, it's going to get ugly. But at the end of the day, I think anybody that's woken up to what's happening here, we all realize that this system needs to crash. It's a corrupt system. It's going to crash. So you need to get prepared. And whether or not there's a backup system in place, as James Rickards has suggested, eventually the world will return to a gold standard. To your point, things will work out at some point, but we have to go through a lot of pain first. Let's talk about, well, first of all, your reaction to any of that?
The interesting thing is, yes, we have to go through a lot of pain. A crash in an unbacked fiat system, in any monetary system, is painful. But the problem is not that the system has to go through this change. The problem is that the system is faulty to begin with. When you build a currency on debt, you have to continue to expand that currency just to pay the interest on the debt. So right now, our biggest problem is not the collapse of the banks and the return to a gold standard. Our biggest problem right now is debt. Every single person in the world, every country, every state and local government is massively in debt to the tune of trillions and trillions upon trillions of dollars. And it is the kind of debt that you can't get out of. The only way to sustain the system is to keep printing. And you're going to keep printing. You're going to see it out of the Fed. You're going to see it out of Washington until the entire system collapses. Because when it does collapse, all of a sudden, there is no more debt. There is no more electronic and paper debt. It's a complete wash. And when you think about it on a nation basis, who is the largest nation debtor in the world? It's the United States. By far, we have more debt than any country in the world. So who wins when all debt is erased? The United States. We keep all our hard assets that we bought, and we paved roads and we built houses. We keep those hard assets, but all the debt is erased because the unbacked currency is erased. Does that kind of make sense? Because it's not a bad thing. It's a required thing so that we can move forward.
Yeah, it's a cleansing of the system, and I think that where we'd all agree, those of us who are awake to what's happening here, is that it would immediately put an end to these unconstitutional wars for which there would no longer be funding. There's a lot of rosy scenarios for humanity and for liberty in the event of a dollar collapse, although I don't wish it on the working poor. I don't wish it on people in poverty. I don't wish it on the middle class. I don't wish it on anybody who's unprepared. But at the end of the day, hopefully it will reset us back towards liberty and away from a new world order. That's when people are going to have to stand up. That's when people are going to, the educated among us are going to have to stand up and inform our brothers and sisters, say, look, this might be a crisis that was caused by them on purpose. Here's what they want to do to fix it. They want to roll us into one world currency, into one world government, into whatever their bogus solutions are. No, the answer is liberty. Here's what we need to do. Ron Paul's got the answers. The Constitution has the answers. Let's look to our founding fathers to know what to do.
I think you're exactly right, and over the past couple of years, that's what's been kind of started to be ingrained in the U.S. in the common people. Just imagine what's going to happen with the next banking collapse, which I think has already started. It should really kick into high gear in October when they start releasing the third quarter results. And for some businesses and governments, that's the end of the year results. Then the crisis is really going to hit home. We're in that red zone, the hot zone that the next collapse is upon us. And when it happens, there's been enough media coverage, movies, that movie Too Big to Fail, and all this coverage that today the people are much more educated and ready to stand up and when these banks collapse to basically kick out the bad guys. We're ready to do it. We're just waiting for that spark where we get pissed off because our bank account is gone or our 401k is gone.
Right, and ultimately that is what it's going to take for some people to wake up. People that are still sound asleep, they're going to need that 401k to go to zero or be devalued 75% overnight before they get it. Now, before we let you go, Bix, let's just talk a little bit about this idea of keeping your metal outside of the financial system. You write, no ETFs, no metal certificates, no mining stocks, no safe deposit boxes. And full disclosure, Bix, I still own some mining stocks, some of which I've done very well on, others of which I'm getting beat up on. And I do take everything that you're saying to heart, and I know there's a lot of people out there that would agree with you about the mining stocks.
The thing about mining stocks, and I used to be a huge investor in mining stocks, I understand that they are leveraged multiples of the price of metal. They're cheap beyond belief right now. Here's the deal with the mining stocks that I believe, why I don't tell people to invest in them, is because they are too valuable. They hold the wealth of the future of that nation in which the mine is in. So when this collapse happens and the world turns to a gold and silver standard, which it always does, those mining stocks, there's no doubt in my mind that every single mine around the world will be nationalized because 99.9% of the population will lose everything. And that 0.1% of the population that owns mining stocks will be the richest people in the world. People aren't going to stand for that. I understand the desire to own mining stocks, and it is huge because they're massively undervalued. The wealth in the ground that they have is uncalculable. But that is the problem. It's not that they're not valuable. It's that they're way too valuable. What they have in the ground is the future currency of the world.
Understood. Okay, thanks for articulating that. That's a great point. Let's circle back, though, a little bit, and let's talk about this idea of keeping your metals outside of the financial system. Because as you noted, and as we talked about here early in the interview, they can, with the flip of a switch, essentially using all their paper, all their bogus paper, crash these prices down really as low as they want to by flooding the world with paper, right? We think that they can still do that despite the page and these other markets opening up across the globe. Let's just say that they can and may do that.
And not only that, but they are right now. The prices of gold and silver are massively depressed. Today, they should be 50 times what they are right now.
Don't miss part 2. Click here.